that Donald Trump, he tweeted in 2019. He said the United States has spent $8 trillion fighting and policing the Middle East. Thousands of our great soldiers have died and been badly wounded. Millions of people have died on the other side. Going into the Middle East is the worst decision ever made. And here is 2025 and the new Trump 2.0. How do you find the way that he's trying to deal with the Middle East?
Stupid, asinine, insane. I mean, this is extremely disappointing because that Donald Trump was updated. Look, let's just clear the air here, because there's a lot of people, out there. I told you so. I told you so. I knew best. And I'm like, well, screw you. So what? You're gloating because there's dead children? You're happy because there's dead children? I told you so. See, dead children. People that believed in Donald Trump were trying to avoid dead children. And there's just a lot of people out there that seem to be angry that at some point in time, I and others said, hey, why don't we give this a shot? Why don't we, take him at face value and see if in fact he's serious about doing this and promoting, the concept of peace, because you can do better than going back to 2019, Nima. You know this. You know that recently, I think it was in December, he posted video clips of Jeffrey Sachs that was condemning Benjamin Netanyahu for getting America involved in those wars that Donald Trump was condemning. You know that, and your audience knows as well. All right? That's the Donald Trump I was supporting. The man that said, I'm not going to fall into the trap of Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not going to get America dragged into yet another Middle East conflict, this time with Iran, that ends up with dead Americans, trillions of dollars expended. That's the guy that I was saying, all right, let's give this a shot. Let's see if he can do this. We always knew this was going to be tough. I mean, the United States is so deeply entwined, entangled in this Israeli mess, this Zionist philosophy, this, however you want to articulate what the state of Israel is, and how it has insinuated itself into the American body politic, that making peace was always going to be a mission impossible. I mean, but what was the alternative? I mean, the Biden administration was knee deep in a genocide of its own making. At least Donald Trump stopped the genocide. And I just challenge anybody to say it. He stopped it. Can you contradict me on that, Nima? Donald Trump stopped the genocide. Can you say no, he didn't? Don't tell me what happened yesterday. I'm talking about when he was the power behind bringing a ceasefire that had Palestinians dancing in the streets of Gaza in joy. Donald Trump did that. All right. Now, moving forward, he has to deal with the complexity of an Israeli government led by Benjamin Netanyahu, the man who Donald Trump singled out as being responsible for dragging America into war. So one would think that having articulated a posture that said, I know the problem, and the problem is Benjamin Netanyahu, and I'm not going to let him take me down the path of prior presidents whom I condemned for getting dragged in the wars, you could say, okay, if that's his foundational thinking, then everything he's doing up here is tactical in nature, meaning that he's dealing with situations as they arise, complicated situations that no American president has been able to solve ever, and he's trying to move things. So you give him the benefit of the doubt. You say, well, that's a hell of a statement you made about Gaza there, putting 100,000 American troops in there and forcefully, evicting the Palestinians. How does that equate with what you said? Well, then you have to say, well, maybe he was looking for a counter proposal. And lo and behold, a counter proposal shows up and you say, oh, maybe the concept of tactical maneuvering to achieve a strategic objective, maybe it makes sense. And so you go on and you see him, taking a harsh stance against the Iranians, irrationally harsh. But I mean, wasn't that stance he took about Gaza and the depopulation of Gaza irrationally harsh? And yet it resulted in a counter proposal. So you say, well, good Lord, okay, trying to look at past, actions. Maybe he's just setting the stage to compel Iran into taking a different tact, one that maybe the indirect approach. Again, because you're always scrambling trying to figure out what the hell Donald Trump's doing, because his statements make no sense. They're way out here, except when you relate them to the foundational philosophy that you have articulated in your tweet. To avoid a war, you're like, gosh, how do we square the two? We have to assume that what he's doing is not to get us into a war, but get us out of a war. Maybe recognizing the difficulty of American-Iranian relations right now, he's deliberately trying to drive the Iranians into the hands of the Russians. It appeared that's what they were doing. The Iranian president said, we will never deal with you, America, but we will deal with others. And, he was having a conversation with Vladimir Putin about how to resolve Gaza and how to resolve Iran. So you could, it's not a stretch of the imagination to say maybe he's punting to Putin, to let Putin take over this thing to achieve the ultimate result of denuclearization and peace. And then the Israelis break the ceasefire and bomb Gaza. This could have been stopped by Trump. Didn't have to happen. But it appears that the United States is 100% behind this action. And now we see the United States carrying out actions against the Houthi, because the Houthi, of course, have always linked their actions in the Red Sea as being linked to Gaza and the humanitarian situation there. And if Israel breaks the ceasefire, the Houthi begin to attack. And so now we've doubled down on that, and it appears that we are moving in the direction towards conflict with Iran. So the very thing that Trump said he wasn't going to allow to happen, that he was cognizant of, the forces that drag us in that direction, and he gave it a name, Benjamin Netanyahu. He's basically allowed Netanyahu to put him in a position where America is heading towards another Middle East conflict that will cost American lives and bankrupt us. And this one could get even worse. This could be the ultimate bankruptcy machine. If we do, in fact, get into a major conflict with Iran, the impact on global energy security will be devastating and will have a horrific impact on the American economy at a time when Donald Trump can't afford to have that. All the changes he's trying to do, which I call revolutionary in nature, are predicated upon some form of economic stability, predictable economic trajectories. When you have, the price of oil shoot up to $120, $200 a barrel, it's going to be devastating. So I don't understand why he did what he did. This makes no sense. There's nothing about it that squares with the foundational philosophy that Donald Trump has been expressing over time since 2019 and up until recently, that said he wanted to avoid the very thing he's now has got us entangled in. I can't make any sense of it.
It's so amazing to see how Netanyahu has some sort of lot of leverage on the US government. And while he has a lot of problem in Israel, he's struggling and he's just fighting for his position. But he has a lot of leverage.
I disagree, though. I disagree. Netanyahu has no leverage, none. That's what makes this all the more stunning. If he had leverage, he would have told Steve Witkoff, get the hell out of my office, when Witkoff showed up and said, sit down, shut up, you're going to accept a ceasefire. If Netanyahu had leverage, he would have said, pound sand, leave. I will pull all the strings I can and bring your pathetic presidency down, because I am Benjamin Netanyahu. I am the Zionist king of the world. I control it. He controls nothing. Nothing. This is a self-inflicted wound, which is what makes it all the more amazing, because you could explain away, say, well, at the end of the day, Donald Trump is controlled by Benjamin Netanyahu. He's not. Donald Trump can flick Netanyahu away like a pesky fly. This is a deeper issue. This has less to do with Netanyahu pulling the strings and everything to do with what's going on inside Donald Trump's brain. this concept of peace through strength. That's the problem. It's not Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a nobody, a nothing. Literally, he has no power. Just you tell me, what can Benjamin Netanyahu do right now? Name one thing he could do right now that causes Donald Trump problems. Name it. Go. You can't. I can play the Jeopardy theme song all day long, and you can't tell me anything. What? He can, they can put $100 million into the congressional race. That ain't for 2 years. We just had the election. That card's been played. Done. He can impact, the selection of the cabinet? Already been done. Miriam Adelson can make a phone call. She'll never get through. She already gave her $100 million. Too late. Benjamin Netanyahu can do nothing. Nothing. We can do everything. We can hit the off switch on everything and make that pathetic little nation go away. But we don't. And we don't for a number of reasons. Because we are heavily addicted to Israel because of the political, insinuation that's taken place in America. But none of that prevents Donald Trump from saying to Netanyahu, sit down and shut up. We would not be where we are today had Donald Trump picked up the phone and said, hey, Bibi, open up the borders, let the humanitarian good in. That or I shut off all the switches. I mean, it's the easiest phone call to make. He didn't make it. Why? Because Bibi has power over him? Nope. Because Israel provides the predicate for Trump's grand vision of stability in the Middle East. This is a Trump problem, not a Netanyahu problem. You see, Donald Trump has built a vision of Middle East peace and prosperity that is contingent upon Israel normalizing relations with other nations. We know this because that was the heart and soul of the Abraham Accords. That's what it was all about. And it almost happened. On October 6th, 2023, we were talking about the potential of normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. That would have been the ultimate victory. When Joe Biden in September of 2023 at the G20 meeting in India came out and talked about the India-Middle East Economic Corridor, Netanyahu got up and gave a speech where he said, this is the greatest moment in modern Israeli history. The greatest moment. Why? Because it took Israel out of being this cancerous body that's causing conflict all over and elevated it into a major, regional economic player that was driving the well-being of the region, that it was becoming insinuated with all the other players, so much so that it could never be excised out. It meant Israel was permanent. Greater Israel was permanent part of the Middle East. The greatest moment in modern Israeli history. And Donald Trump was the architect of that. Even though Biden was the president, Donald Trump started that. And in Donald Trump's mind, he has to get back to that. That's the framework of peace that he's talking about. But it requires Israel to be the centerpiece because he's incapable of envisioning a structure of peace that minimizes Israel. His job is to maximize Israel, which means he has to end this conflict that Israel's in terms that are favorable to Israel. And this is the mission impossible. How can you have peace where, especially where Israel spent 15 months getting its, head bashed in by Hamas? Yes, there was genocide. I'm not there. Yes, the Palestinians, but Hamas wasn't defeated. Hamas won. It's not me saying that. The Israeli generals say that. Hamas won. Hamas beat Israel. And so now you're going to say, well, forget that. Forget history. Hamas must go away. Now, there's ways to make Hamas go away. Hamas knows this. That's why Hamas was part of the 14 Palestinian factions that flew to Moscow, then flew to Beijing to talk about creating a political singularity that would take the name Hamas off of the marquee and put something else up there. But Hamas would be intermingled down here. So they would stop being the headliner, but be part of, the main body. We could have gone that route, but we didn't. Because, see, that changes things. That now that the simplistic Abrams Accord, Israel is the center of everything, that model doesn't apply. And Trump didn't have an alternative model. And so he got trapped into this. It's not that Netanyahu trapped him. Trump trapped himself into this model because he was incapable of conceiving a solution that had Hamas emerging victorious. And what's troubling about that conclusion, which I buy into because I just made it, is he was apparently engaged in negotiations with Hamas, which is a step that no other presidency has taken. And that's what I don't understand. On the one hand, he is capable of taking these risky moves. Again, whatever you want to say about Donald Trump, he sat down, he negotiated directly with the Taliban to get out of Afghanistan. Nobody else was doing that. He did it. He met with Kim Jong-un. Nobody else did that. He did it. This is a man who is capable of breaking the mold in terms of standard diplomatic practices and going out and taking risks. Why couldn't he continue the risk taking? That's what I don't understand. That's what I can't comprehend. And it gets to the psychology again of peace through strength. And I guess he was feeling vulnerable. Maybe in his mind, he was being asked to make too many concessions to peace, and he needed to, reestablish the concept of strength. It's impossible to know. Is it possible that he can go out there and flex his muscles, then back off and say, "See, this is the potential of American military power"? The problem with it is that you're using this against the Houthi, who've been bombed by American military power by proxy or directly since 2014. They're not going to back down. I mean, we've started an existential fight with the Houthi, meaning in order for us to win, we have to destroy them. And again, I just want to remind people, Ansarallah and the Houthi, where does this notion come from? I'm not an expert on Islam. I don't pretend to be one, but my understanding is that the Houthi provided safety to the Prophet Muhammad when he was transiting the area. They are the protectors of Islam. I mean, and this is part of their very essence. We're not playing with, simple hill folk here. We're playing with people who are actually very sophisticated, who can build sophisticated weapon systems, who have imbued into them a notion of Islamic purity, not fanaticism like the Wahhabists or, head chopping, but purity, meaning that they are driven to support those who need support. That's why they're supporting the Palestinians, because they believe in this. They believe that it is their duty, their responsibility to do this. And we're going to bomb them into submission. We're going to bomb people who believe that by giving their life in defense of this pure mission they have, they will go to paradise. They believe this. Where are the advisors to Donald Trump? Where are the people who are supposed to be telling him, "Don't do this, bad move, boss"? Well, we know it's not going to be Pete Hegseth. He's the one who's out there, speaking about, I forget what he said. It's the equivalent of, "We're going to bomb you into submission."
We're talking about peace through strength.
Right. But he said, "We're going to pummel you and do all." Marco Rubio, he has no understanding of the region of the Houthi. Tulsi Gabbard, God bless her. I have a lot of respect for her, but she's so focused on Islamic extremism that she somehow has been blinded, and now she is calling the Houthi Islamic extremists, equating them with Al-Qaeda and ISIS when they're the furthest thing from Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Donald Trump is not well served, and he's not a man who has the inherent capabilities of formulating these positions on his own. He wants peace. I still honestly believe that this is a man who wants peace, but he doesn't know how to get from where we are to peace because he keeps being dragged down the path of war by his own inner demons and by the advice of those around him.
Here is what Hegseth said that you mentioned.
Be very clear. This campaign is about freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence. The minute the Houthis say, "We'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones," this campaign will end. But until then, It will be unrelenting. We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately. We will hold you accountable as the sponsor of this proxy. And I echo his statement. We will not be nice about it. This is not the Biden administration. The message is clear. We will come after the Houthis until they stop shooting at our ships, and the Iranians better stay out of it.
You know, when he's talking about the Biden administration, it seems to me that he doesn't know. I don't know if they have provided him with the information about the fight that the Biden administration had with Houthis. They have been bombing Houthis, and it wasn't just the easy way. They did everything possible to fight them. But it seems that Pete Hegseth comes out and says, no, the way that we're dealing with Houthis is totally different. They haven't seen anything like this that we are doing to them. How do you think that he knows what has happened during the Biden administration?
I'm sure he's briefed on it, but this is a man who has an irrational belief in the supremacy of American firepower. Look, I've served in the American military in times of war, in times of peace. We are very capable. In some ways, we're the most capable military on the planet. There's no other force in the world that can project military power globally like the United States of America. No other military could do what we're doing in Yemen. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that we're unique in that ability. And so sometimes with the capabilities comes, a cockiness that borders on irrational. But I'm also somebody that I was an intelligence officer who spent a lot of time doing targeting. And I am intimately familiar with Central Command, which is running this conflict, and the inadequacies of their intelligence staff. I know for a fact that Central Command has a tendency to do a lot of speculation. They are victims of their own inherent prejudices and of intellectual modeling that they do that's based upon a lack of understanding. Look, this dates back to the Gulf War. I was heavily involved in the targeting of Iraqi Scud missiles, both in terms of their production capacity, their command and control, and their operational, activities that we tried to interdict their launches. I will tell you that, and this became evident when I became a weapons inspector in the United Nations afterwards, because I had an opportunity. It was a unique opportunity to participate in the active targeting of this target deck, and then go into Iraq afterwards and visit every place we attacked and get the truth about it. We misidentified the vast majority of the targets we bombed. We claimed that we did more destruction on them than we did. And oftentimes we were hitting things that had nothing to do with what we thought they were doing. And when it came to mobile relocatable targets like the Scud missile, we blew up more Bedouin tents, more truck stops, more buses, more fuel tankers, more private vehicles than we did Scuds. We didn't kill a single Scud launcher in the entire war, despite diverting thousands of combat sorties dedicated to that task. But we did kill thousands of innocent Iraqis and hundreds of innocent Jordanian truck drivers. We slaughtered Bedouin families because we mistake a Bedouin tent filled with sheep, because it was wintertime, so they bring the sheep at night, and you get a heat target that looks cylindrical, so you bomb it, saying, I got a Scud missile. No, you didn't. You killed a Bedouin. And when I say Bedouin family, I'm not talking about, a single nuclear element, father, mother, some kids. I'm talking about a collection of families that come together. So it's not just 5 people you killed 35 people in a tent together with their means of living. We did this over and over and over and over again. And we never learned the lesson. It was repeated in Alaska. It was repeated in Afghanistan. It's repeated every time we go to war. We don't understand the people that we're targeting. We don't understand how they operate, what they're doing. The Houthi have been You know, again, Pete Hegseth has to understand this. The American intelligence that's used to create the targeting wasn't invented yesterday. It's been actually applied on the Houthi target since 2014, when we started supporting the Saudi campaign against the Houthi. And we have been using American intelligence, the totality of it. Central Command's been behind this the whole time, collecting on the Houthi, turning that into targets that we turn over to the Saudis, who then bomb them using American airplanes and American bombs. So this campaign that Hegseth is running right now is not something that just happened yesterday. It's been going on since 2014, and we haven't beaten the Houthi yet. And now we're suddenly saying that if we just ratchet it up, how do you ratchet it up? Again, I've been there. I understand what happened. Find me more targets. What do you want? More targets? That just means I have to become more creative and looking at things I don't understand. And so now you start saying, well, gosh, what are we looking for? A truck park. Oh, here's a truck park. Here's a truck park. Here's a truck park. And we bombed those, but all we bombed was truck parks. They're not what we thought they are. They aren't the source of the mobile launchers. What are we looking for? Underground facilities. Well, look, there's a door into the side of a hill. Let's bomb that. And we just start bombing things we don't understand. We don't know what we're doing. We give them names. We get incomplete, cause effect. We get signals intelligence where they talk about, the Al Mamoun factory. But now we look where it is, but there's an Al Mamoun water distribution center, but we just see Al Mamoun. We say, there's the factory. Bam, we had a water distribution center, kill a bunch of civilians. We didn't do anything. This is what's happening right now. Hegseth, he's shaking the Capitol. Congratulations, Pete. You drop enough bombs, you make the ground shake. If you think those people are scared, look what's happened in the streets today of that city, filled with millions of Yemenis, of Houthis or Ansarallah saying, no, bring it on. We're here. We're willing to, they'll do this forever. You will never break them, ever, ever. What will happen though, Pete, and I'm just predicting the future here, this is going to become a horribly expensive campaign. The Biden administration found that out too. Right now, they're talking about diverting up to 3 carrier battle groups into the region. This costs a lot of money. Where's that money come from? We just did a continuing resolution. So there's no, additional funds. We're going to be eating into we're going to run into the same problem that the Biden administration ran into, which is we have depleted operational funds. We now have to cut into training. We have to cut into other things to fund this war that was not funded. We didn't predict this war. We weren't prepared for this war. This administration's too young to have built up a budgetary reserve for this. So we are literally, we've gone through the fat and we are now consuming the muscle of the American military. This war is making us weaker. We are expending munitions for which we don't have an industrial base geared up to replace. How long are we going to fire multi-million-dollar cruise missiles at targets we don't understand? We will run out of bombs before the Houthi ever quit. And then what? We're going to take this on to Iran? I mean, we're going to find out the hard way that Iran isn't the weak nation. I mean, here's the other problem that we have. There are people telling, Trump, Iran's a house of cards. Blow hard and they go down. Now, normally I would say, well, how stupid can you be? Except we just had Syria go down. And who amongst us predicted that? No one. No one. There's not a single person in the world that said Syria's going down like a house of cards. And down it went. So now, I haven't been to Iran in a while. I don't know the true state of affairs. I know that there's, dissension between the president and the supreme leader, that there's tension there, and between him and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Command, there's some tension there. I know there's extreme economic difficulties in Iran, but I also know that in 2023, Iran was stress tested, that the CIA, MI6, and others brought all their proxies up together in the aftermath of the tragic death of that Kurdish girl at the hands of the police. And they attempted a regime change operation. I spoke to President Raisi about it in September 2023. He said it was one of the greatest threats to the existence of Iran since the Iran-Iraq war. He said it was a big problem, but Iran beat it. The Iranian people rallied around. That was 2023. This is 2025. A lot can change since then. I mean, hell, Syria was stress tested all the way up until 2020 and found that they were solid. They could push back against ISIS and Al Qaeda, Al Nusra, and all that. But a few years later, bam, down they go. So, is it irrational for Donald Trump to be told if we just pressure Iran, they will collapse? I mean, I disagree with, but I don't have perfect intelligence on that. And again, somebody can say, look what happened to Syria. Just pressure them the right way and they will collapse. So maybe that's what's driving him right now. Maybe what Donald Trump is trying to do is take a shortcut, basically saying it was too complicated to negotiate with Hamas and all this. We're going to take down Hamas, collapse Iran, and then peace will break out all over. I don't know, because he hasn't done a good job of articulating what this strategy is. And his spokespeople, I mean, other than Pete Hegseth talking about, shaking, the Houthi into submission through bombs, which is just stupid. He should know better. Where are the intelligence analysts? I mean, I'm not unique. There are people in there that they're smart. There's people that know how to put two and two together to connect the dots. Why aren't they standing up saying, this ain't going to work? Well, that means that the Trump administration has done what past administrations have done. Remove the professionals and bring in the ideologues, the yes men or yes women, people who are incapable of telling the president the truth and instead tell the president what he wants to hear, which is, if we just do this, this will happen. I don't know. This is very frustrating because I had hoped we were on a path towards peace. And right now we don't seem to be on a path towards peace.
I can say that Iran doesn't have anything to do with Syria. It's on much more complicated. They have their differences,
I
but
agree with
that doesn't make any sort of external policy for for Iran. They know what they're looking after. They're looking for, and the difference is the policy, that the way that they're gonna negotiate is not something substantial, Scott. Is not something that would collapse the Iranian government.
I know that. I'm saying that the Trump administration, again, first of all, Nima, understand this. I'm speculating because the Trump administration hasn't put out a white paper that says this is our strategy, this is how we're doing it. I mean, we can criticize the Biden administration all we want, and I made a career out of criticizing them, but at least they gave us a foundation of intellectual thought that said this is our policy, and I could look at it and go and then spend my life picking it apart, sniping, long range sniping, but Trump hasn't even given us that. We don't have anything. We are basing ourselves upon social media posts that are all over the map. Trying to follow a Trump press conference is an exercise in futility if you're looking for intellectual consistency. I oftentimes I don't like watching them because it just angers me. I mean, I get angry when I watch Trump speak because it's just irrational blustering, but you have to listen to his words because we're in the, back in the old days in the Soviet times. I mean, honest to God, we had all the intelligence capabilities in the world, but people actually waited for, Victory Day or the, revolution celebrations in November to look at the reviewing stand and go, okay, where's Brezhnev? Okay, who's next to Brezhnev? Ooh, he moved one space over. What does that mean? What does that mean if this guy's there? This guy's not there. What does that mean? And they were doing this. This is criminology. I mean, Kremlinology. Literally the exact opposite of what an intelligence professional should be doing, which is reading, the statements and looking at how the statements, interact with actual policy and things. Instead, we're looking at photographs, seeing where people are and their body language and all that, trying to discern, because we had no clue. And so that's what happens with Trump. You have to listen to these asinine, inane statements he makes because it's the only clue you have. You have to listen to it and say, I'm hoping I hear something. Oh, and then you're hoping upon hope that is, an indication of real intent, that all the other crap that he said is just nonsense and bluster, and we're just going for this. it's very frustrating being a Trump analyst. It's an exercise in futility and frustration.